Why, hello again. Welcome back. We are going to be talking about some factors that influence assessment. Once again, as I mentioned in the previous video, I have reused footage from March. And frankly, it's allowed me to have more time to work on new content for this class. So, without further ado, I reintroduce you to Tiny Me, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye!
So training, administration and scoring errors are a large source of bias. Typically, graduate students, who are training in a class, they is 2 to 4 administrations of a test. There's a lot of importance on just getting more experience, and after 10 administrations, errors tend to go down drastically. So first test that you give is going to be awful, or at least you'll feel that way. It probably won't be as bad as it feels, but the more you practice giving the test, the more you get familiar, the more experience you get, the easier it'll be. Excuse me, I have to pause this for a second. Okay, sorry, I had to make sure that my that I wasn't missing any one-on-one appointments for my other class. Cool. So yeah, practice improves whoever you're administering the test to's performance. Now, there's lots of these. There's this thing called the expectancy effect. Robert Rosenthal did a lot of work on this. There's a different Rosenthal at WashU who discredited a lot of Freud work. So if I say Saul, I mean Robert in this case. So Robert Rosenthal in Harvard found that people tended to perform in a manner consistent with an experimenter's, or so in our case, the test administrator's expectations. This worked. They saw this in humans. They saw this in rats. It's not limited to experiments. This also occurs on standardized tests. So students asked to score ambiguous responses will give more points to people they like or think are bright. That's why blind grading is really important, and people tend to find what they expect. Now, from a practical standpoint, this is one reason why I encourage students to go to office hours, so that they get to know their faculty. And I'm not advocating that you just get to know your faculty so that when grading is ambiguous, they give you better grades. But that is one obvious kind of bonus, to have faculty get to know you, so they give you the benefit of the doubt when they grade you. Because but when you have ambiguous stimuli, people find what they want, what they expect to see, and how people expect others to behave ends up influencing that behavior. So Rosenthal found that expectancy effects are triggered both by nonverbal cues, and the experimenter / administrator often isn't even aware of them. So these can be small and varied on test outcomes. So careful study is really important here to see exactly how they affect, and they're test specific, but they make a difference. Now, there isn't really a consistent or kind of clear difference between studies that use positive reinforcement, or that use reinforcement showing positive or negative effects. So there are individual studies that found that kids, or at least this study from 1978 found that a 17.6 point increase in IQ scores when African American children were given culturally appropriate feedback by African American test administrators. That is a full standard deviation. That's an effect size of 1. That's huge. That is the difference between Mensa and, well, community college. It's huge. That's I mean, yeah, that's the average IQ difference between someone who doesn't go to college, like the average person, and someone who graduates from college. So while like these effects aren't consistent across studies, they are big, and so that they're at least something to be mindful of. So in general, check with what your test manual says. In general, it's okay to reward effort, so praising effort is helpful. If anything, it encourages subjects to persist, but don't reward correct answers. Don't react. Don't, give them feedback, or unless the test tells you, but in general, it's okay to reward effort and persistence. And while that can improve test scores, uh, it it's it's more to get people back to their true score. So computer assisted testing, I talked a little about this, the book. For those of you that have it, kind of praise it as like this futuristic thing. The future is here. It's been here for a while. There are some advantages, like it's obviously well linked to item response theory. It allows tests to be customized to the person. So as every response you give, the computer can instantly evaluate whether you got it correct or incorrect and calibrate the next question in a way that will be most informative. So instead of having everyone take the exact same questions, some of those questions will be better than others for getting a sense of each person's ability. Instead, the computer can select the question that is most optimal to getting a precise estimate. Now, this is highly standardized. There's a lot of precision in timing. It lessens dependence on human test administrators. The pacing of this, so so you don't have to have them answer questions that they're predicted with like really big confidence that they're going to get wrong. So you don't have to give them really easy questions that are just a waste of everybody's time, or really hard questions that they're definitely not going to get right. And it does allow for a lot of uniform administration. It controls for bias from at least the administrator. However, there are big downsides. At least, so computer adaptive versions of tests, and I'll talk about some of my own personal experiences. Computer adaptive versions of tests tend to not show large differences between computer assisted and paper and pencil versions. Computer versions can be more accurate and take less time, and some people enjoy this computer format and even prefer it. I don't prefer it. As someone who likes to bounce around on a test, it does not allow you to do that. Some versions do. The current GRE breaks it up into multiple waves, so you can bounce within each wave, like within a test block, but you can't go back, and it uses all the information in that test block. But so it's some people like it. I don't. From a test taker perspective, from a test maker perspective, I like. Yeah. So one study showed that when respondents were asked about sensitive material, okay, yeah. So let me back up. So when I say don't like computer administered tests, I don't like computer adaptive testing, which is where it calibrates. Just computer administered in general is fine, where your test. So if it's the equivalent test, if all you're doing is turning it online, it's fine. They're equivalent for the most part. There are challenges converting between the two with little notice, but that's my own little. But yeah, so people tend to be more honest when they're administered via computer versus in front of a person. You can apply computer adaptive testing to MMPI and or computer assisted testing. Sorry, I'm blending these two. So computer assisted is just you take it online. You take it on a computer. Computer adaptive is the computer calibrates. So computer adaptive or assisted is can be applied to really any test that's pencil paper. A big concern is whether computer generated reports can land in the wrong hands and be misinterpreted. So computer, even though it gives uniform information, it doesn't know as well if you if you cheat, or if like your internet cut out or someone distracted you, so you don't have as much control over the administration, if it's done at home, um, and the score doesn't take that context into account. Subject variables. Oh, I'm sorry, this is awfully formatted. So the state of a person who's taking the test can be a source of error. So illness, insomnia, drug use. Sorry, I made these before. So test anxiety, differential stress, hormones seem to have some variation. Yeah, I realize that this is the most bizarre. When I drafted this, I was entertained. But yeah, so not just menstruation and all that lady stuff, but yeah, so variations in perceptual motor coordination seem to vary with cycle, better when you weren't menstruating, um, than without, effects reversed for other tests. Again, there's some really weird research out there on like hormones and like testing. I wanted to at least show you some of it because it's weird, but it's not like a huge research area. It's just, neurochemistry matters, and some researchers are really into it. For again, uh, yeah. So there are also like behavioral assessments. So when you have to judge respondents, so like when the person acts as the testing instrument, so when you have raters, human judges are subject to their own problems that add error when assessing respondents. So reactivity, drift, expectancies, and deception. Expectancies are the same as with any test so reactivity, the reliability of a behavioral assessment is usually assessed using inter-rater reliability, so consistency among raters, and or having supervisors make periodic checks. Reliability tends to be highest when judges know they're being evaluated either by a supervisor or against one another. This like increases reactivity. So yeah, so when you know you're being assessed, you are more consistent, which is concerning. So one study found that reliability ratings decreased when they were told they weren't being compared to a standard, decreased by a quarter. Now, many studies report inter-rater reliability, but care should be exercised because these numbers typically are calculated during training and drop during the administration because, they can't check all of them. So reliabilities that are reported tend to be the best case scenario, not the typical case. So drift evaluators, judges are typically trained and given strict sets of rules on what to value when evaluating targets, but after some time, evaluators may not be following as strict to those guidelines as they were trained to. This is called drift. To avoid this, evaluators should periodically refresh themselves on the assessment criteria. That's why when I grade tests, I shuffle them so that and I look over them after, and I try and I keep my rubric in front of me for each question so that drift. So if I'm drifting, I can catch it and correct it. Deception um, actually matters too. So how you assess someone who does not want to be accurately assessed. So the correlation between tests and actual thefts is 0.13. So when you're classified as dishonest, 95% of the time they're false positives. So Secret Service agents only scored above chance. Lie detection as an industry, it's not. It is used in government, and still, as far as I know, I have a cousin in a government agency who works at one of those. I can't disclose because he'll get mad at me. They will get mad at me. But they use lie detection as of last month at the least. So yeah, so lie detectors tend to not be admissible in court just because they're so inconsistent, and they're really high stakes if you get it wrong. Commercial tests have questionable validity. There's YouTube videos out there about how to beat a lie detector test. That they're Yeah, if you make it really messy and noisy. I haven't tried to do it, but I might as a fun experiment if I'm stuck in my apartment for that long. But yeah, so their detection is hard and the stakes are high. Cool. So that is all I have for this section of materials on just test administration. I'm going to so I've already uploaded the slides. I will render these files and upload them to Google Drive because I have unlimited storage over there. So yeah, I will keep you posted. I apologize for the chaos. It's not my intent. I hope everyone is doing okay. I have office hours. Or I have one-on-one appointments that you can schedule with me. You don't have to talk about, class, just life stuff, because I do have some knowledge. But I think I was ambitious with how much I can do, given just everything. But I'm here for you all, and yeah, I will be uploading these soon. Good luck and wash your hands.
Hello again. Or I should say, we're almost wrapped up here. So, hopefully the experience of my floating head in, I think, my living room, so the same room I'm filming in now, wasn't too bad. All the key ideas are there. So I will see you in the next video.